Well, speaking of Selma Blair, she reads my book to her son, so that is
Oh,
exciting.
Oh,
amazing.
cool. I love
Yeah,
her.
me too. She gave me a nice comment on Instagram, so I was very excited
Oh,
about
that's
that.
awesome.
Hey TID fam, welcome to season 2 of the Invisible Diaries. We're your hosts, Misty and Amber. I'm Misty from MistyBlueDream.com, a chronic illness lifer with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and a congenital heart warrior. I am a biomedical major, writer, mom, and advocate.
And I'm Amber from the autoimmuneadvocate.com. I'm a mom, health coach, advocate, and fellow chronic illness warrior. And together we created the Invisible Diaries to shed light on invisible and chronic illnesses through education, advocacy, and awareness.
The Invisible Diaries isn't just about sharing our story, but also including each and every one of yours. But first, a quick disclaimer. Any information discussed in this podcast is strictly our opinion and for informational purposes only. It is not meant as medical advice and should not be taken that way. Always consult with your doctor or medical team.
We know battling chronic illness can be hard, and if you find yourself or someone you love in crisis and need someone to talk to, you can call the National Suicide Support Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, which provides free and confidential support in the U.S. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, that number is 1-800-273-TALK.
Any cited resources mentioned will be linked on our website, theinvisiblediaries.com. Now let's get started.
We love to talk about how Spoonies often wear many hats, and our guest today is no different. Julie is a native New Yorker, author, mother, advocate, and MS warrior, as well as an MS champion, mission moment speaker, and a Walk MS New York participant. Julie sent us a copy of her sweet book, and after reading it, we just knew we had to have her on the show. So without further ado, welcome, and thank you so much for coming on the show. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much for having me. Well, I'm kind of like both of you. I was a medical mystery, so it took a long time to get diagnosed. So when I was finally diagnosed, unlike, people that are diagnosed now, it's a little bit shorter duration, hopefully for them. It was such a relief. I felt like, okay, now I know what I'm up against, and knowing, who I had to fight, I can go into the boxing ring. But it took way too long to find out. So as I'm sure you guys took long, I've read your background, but I'm really good at the stalking, by the way. This has been like, this is a
Us
perfect.
too.
Awesome.
Yeah, so good.
You totally fit in with us then.
Yeah. But it was good. I know it's never a good diagnosis to get anything really, but just not knowing is sometimes a little bit harder than knowing.
Absolutely. So as I was stalking you a little bit, I saw on your website, you had a link to an article and I read it. It's called Unstoppable, How Author Julie Stamm was Able to Thrive Despite Her MS Diagnosis. And it was in Authority magazine. And I was really inspired by your story. I love that you talked about feeling vindicated upon receiving your diagnosis, among all of the other many emotions that come along with the diagnosis. But it's something that we talk a lot about on our show and our platforms because there's something about being able to like name your monster.
Yeah.
But you stated you had been having escalating symptoms for years prior to receiving your diagnosis. And we kind of wanted to know what kept you fighting and trying to figure out what was going on inside your body.
It was such a long journey. So it started slow and it felt like, okay, I could probably deal with this. It's just, my eyes bothering me a little and I could deal with this. And then every new symptom, I was like, okay, I could probably deal with this. And I just kept going to doctors, and they kept dismissing me like, hey, you're traveling, because I had moved from New York to London. And so I was traveling back and forth so much. They were like, it's just because you're traveling and different diet. I was like, this doesn't seem right. And then I had lost so much weight because I was so stressed out from it. So I was 97 pounds, which was I'm 5'7". So what didn't make sense. And
Wow.
I'm an eater. So it wasn't, I just knew this wasn't normal for me. So I just wouldn't give up. So I was like, this is going to take my life if I don't keep fighting. And so it took they sent me to a psychiatrist because they thought it was in my head. And it was not. So the psychiatrist said that it's secondary to an underlying health issue, which I was grateful that he said that. But it still was crazy that I can't even count. There were so many doctors that just kept saying, "There's nothing wrong. Go home. You know, you're menstruating." I'm like, "What? This
It
is
makes
nothing."
me so mad.
Yeah, I was like, "This isn't what it is. I'm not crazy." But I ended up having to go to a geriatric doctor. So that's, you know, the end of life, not end of life, but like later in life when you have these, you know, things that are going on that they can't quite figure out. And that's who decided to send me for an MRI. And then it was so clear. It was like a 3-day event. And that's like, how did this take so long for someone to just order an MRI? And so from
Wow.
there, yeah, it was crazy. And so once I was diagnosed, like immediately, I was like, I'm going to be an advocate. I'm going to fight and I'm going to make sure that no one goes through what I went through. And I have been doing that ever since. So with the MS Society in the UK and the MS Society in the US now, I have been talking to newly diagnosed and getting them, or anyone that even has symptoms, you know, like, hey, I'm so open about what I go through. And I don't care if you think it's embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed by what I'm doing. And so it started with patient advocacy, and then my son was born. And so from there, I decided to kind of be an advocate for the invisible patients. So like my partner and my son, because they don't have MS, but they are living with it. So that's when I wrote the book, because I wanted to support those people to understand it a little bit better. And so that's where it all went. I just babble. I'm so sorry about that.
No, oh my gosh, that's what
No,
we
that's
love about
perfect.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just hanging out having a conversation, and hopefully people listening, there's going to be someone out there that feels like they can connect, or that they learn something, and so we love it. That we'll all babble away together.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a quick question, Julie. From the time that you were diagnosed to when you had your son, what was the time difference?
So I was in 2007 and I had him in 2016, so 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was married in the past for a long time, and I didn't think I could have kids because we had tried for so long. And you know, my now partner, we're together 8 years, so he wasn't like he was unplanned, but he was definitely like my
Wanted.
yeah, very wanted. As like I'm a little too obsessed with him, really.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, he is definitely a blessing for sure.
that's awesome. So actress Selma Blair stated that she had MS symptoms for up to 15 years prior to her diagnosis. And I know your diagnosis process took years, along with, you know, several years of symptoms as well. So it can be a lengthy process to get an accurate diagnosis of MS due to the slow progression. However, the sooner the patient is treated, the better. What are your hopes for the future of MS and the 2.3 million people worldwide that also have MS?
Well, speaking of Selma Blair, she reads my book to her son, so that is
Oh,
exciting.
amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love her.
Me too. She gave me a nice comment on Instagram, so I was very excited about
That's
that.
awesome.
That is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I was
Well,
like just
it's
picturing it in her hands, reading it to her son. I was like, all right, I'm gonna make it somewhere with this. It's going
That's
somewhere.
amazing.
it's
I always,
worthy of it for sure.
yeah.
Thank
I've
you.
always loved her before I knew she had health issues and followed
Me
her. And
too.
so when she busted out that cane and it was like announced, I was like, you know, we have a
Yeah,
voice
we have
now.
like
That's so
yeah,
great.
I know, and she's just
How cool.
she's so open about it, which I really appreciate with her.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love
So
that.
back to your question. So it's such a different disease now from when I was diagnosed, and just like it's 14 years in January. But when I was diagnosed, there were only 3 treatment options, and now there's over a dozen.
Wow.
Every year, it like changes and gets closer and closer to a cure. I'm very lucky to be in the only FDA clinical trial for stem cells right now. So
Awesome.
like one of 50 people nationally,
Wow.
which is
Wow.
super exciting. Unfortunately, to get into it, you have to have like a certain level of disability, which means like not the best part of it, but
It's like frozen.
yeah, it's like, hey, I made it, but if it works, then it's completely worth it. And I think what for people now, I would just be, it's not the same disease as it once was. If I was diagnosed this year, I mean, yes, obviously I would be scared and have all these doubts and questions, but it's not the same disease. We have treatments that can stop it. And, we don't have anything that can reverse it, but we have treatments that, they used to only be able to reduce relapses by 33%. And there was really no treatment for the other progressive types of MS. And now there are. So in a short period in science, 14 years isn't that long. And we've come so far already that I just have no doubt that within my lifetime, they'll cure it.
I was just going to ask, like, what are some common symptoms or maybe some symptoms you've experienced, if you're willing to share that, so that if anyone has that on their list, maybe of crossing out a potential diagnosis, maybe they can kind of understand.
Yeah, I think for me, it started with, I felt like I had something in my eyelash. So it was tiny. And then, that was like nothing to worry about. But then I would notice I felt like I had bugs crawling on me all the time. So I was like incredibly itchy, but then it would and then it was numbness and tingling. But what really got me was the left leg weakness. And then along with that, my bladder was like a major issue. I felt like I constantly had a UTI. So I was just running to the bathroom all the time, and it really controlled my life because I was like, where's the bathroom? Where are we going? And like, it's not the most fun of symptoms, but it is a big common symptom. And I feel bad for people that have MS and they're scared to talk to their doctors about it because there are treatments that will help you significantly. So if you don't feel comfortable, I mean, I talk to everyone. I have to use catheters. I don't care. Who cares? Like, get over it.
Do what you gotta do. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I have to use catheters, but I don't have to wear diapers, and I can, I have control of my life in that respect.
Yeah.
So, just own it, and who cares? Like, I just think patients.
I love that.
And don't worry about, talking to your doctor about embarrassing stuff. They're there. They're working for you. And if you can't open up to them, they can't treat you properly. So.
Well, we talk about that a lot on here too. But when I first got my interstitial cystitis diagnosis, MS was on the list. And I remember thinking, like, because I had a girlfriend whose mom had MS. And like you say, I mean, when I was a child, I just remember it being so terrifying. Like, it was such a big deal because it was life altering for them. And like you say, her and her sister and her dad, like, it affected all of them. Yeah. And so I just remember that was the only person I knew. So I was like, I don't want this. Like, this can't be it. And so I remember fighting it. And thankfully for mine at this time, I don't, my brain MRI is clear, but the bladder side of things is like, it's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it is definitely that first stage of like lab work that doesn't show anything. It's like, I feel like I have a UTI, but there's no bacteria.
Right. And then
so
you're just taking antibiotics because they're like, well, let's give her more drugs.
We'll just throw it up.
Yeah. It gets so misdiagnosed.
And that sense of urgency too. We talk about it a lot in the IC community, but I'm sure, like you say, with MS, it definitely affects the bladder. So pay attention to that symptom.
it's one that people are so embarrassed to talk about. And I'm like,
yeah, but doctors hear it all. They see it all. I mean,
I know.
You got to try not to be embarrassed with the doctor. I mean, I can see, like, with friends and family, it might be hard to talk about, but with the doctors, they're used to that kind of stuff.
I remember, like, when I started dating again after my marriage ended, I was so nervous about telling, like, the guy I have to use catheters. I'm like, how am I going to do this? And, just because, like, I look completely normal. I was able to go, I go to bars. I look, you would never know.
You are normal.
No, I know. But you would never know that there's like any underlying stuff going on. But I told my partner, and first he was like, do we have to do anything like sex-wise? But he was curious about that.
Right. You're good to go.
Yeah. And he was like, it's kind of like needing glasses. And I was like, okay, that's a good way to put it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So he really made light of it. So I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then
be like, you now check a box, you get to progress.
You can hang out. And now when we leave I always have one, like I'm always checking my pocket, but he's always like checking to make sure he has one in case my bag gets stolen or this, which has never happened, but he's always
that's
like.
That's a great partner.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really, really good.
That's
awesome.
Take notes, everybody. Take notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Misty and I are obviously both parents as well. And so we understand the demand and challenges of parenting while battling chronic illness. And honestly, I don't know about you, Misty, but I feel like it's one of the hardest aspects of managing chronic illness, because when you're just worried about yourself, it's one thing, but when you actually have to care for other people, I think it adds a different dynamic. And so I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about that side of the struggle, because I think parenting is hard without a chronic illness, especially now, because every family has its challenges. But I really kind of wanted to know what inspired you to write this beautiful children's book, and what message do you hope that it conveys to other parents and families?
Well, I was looking for materials that they give to children to help explain. I told my son from day one, Mom is a little different, but you'll be fine. You'll never be in short supply of love. That's for sure. But I always journaled to him. So I always wrote him notes, because I have a really bad, some cognitive issues. So I wrote him notes because I want to remember his first word and his first steps and all that. And there are nights that I had felt like I really failed him. There were days my legs didn't work, so we spooched all over the apartment, or there were terrible moments in momhood for me. And then I was looking at sorry. There were pretty terrible moments in momhood, but he never saw them that way. He saw them as great adventures. So that was a big turning point to me, just talking to him and listening to how he saw the events. Because, we are all parents are hard on ourselves all the time about everything. And then we try to overcompensate because we feel bad about one time that we, let them watch too much TV, or, wasn't completely aware of what was going on, or involved as much as you want. But the reality, all of us are going through something, and all of us have moments where, hey, we're tired, we need a break. And I think the book it's not allowing it to be an excuse for him, and it is empowering him and letting him know that, hey, Mom has this, but it makes me a more resilient kid. It makes me kinder. And he's the first kid that's at a table, not during coronavirus, he'll make sure everyone has their food, because he'll make sure if he sees an old person walking down the street with groceries, he'll say, should we stop and ask them? Because he notices people. He should notice these things. And I think he is more in tune to that, because he notices when Mom's having a bad day. And it might be a subtle thing, but he'll do a little bit more on those days for sure. When it was so hot in New York and just muggy and disgusting, he'll be like, I want to have an air conditioner day. Let's just hang in. And he didn't want to have an air conditioner day, but he wanted Mom not to overheat and die. So not
That's
really,
sweet.
But
feel like it, because the heat is awful.
It's terrible.
I think that's amazing, because I was a single mom for a really long time before I had any real diagnosis. And so there's times, even still today, where my energy will be good and I can move along. And then I have days where I just crash and burn for several days. I can't get out of bed. I'm fatigued. And so, when my kids were younger and I was split up with their dad, I would always get, all kinds of crap from his side of the family, oh, she just sleeps all the time. They accused me of being on drugs and you name it. And it was really hard for me, and it made me feel like a failure as a mother for a really long time, and something I struggled with. So I feel like your book is a great tool. I mean, if I had something like that, that's something I could have given my children. I could have given to, their side of the family. So maybe if they could read it and kind of help, co-parent a little bit better. So I love that you were able to offer that.
That's a really good review. I'm like, thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when I read your book, it was definitely something that resonated with me because of spending a lot of time in the bathroom. Yeah. And I remember him because when I was diagnosed, he was 5. And so I would spend so much time in there because of the urgency. Yeah. And I would just have to sit. And so he would color outside of the door, and he would slide me notes under the door. And I remember, and he'd be like, are you almost done? Circle yes or no, or something like that. Or can we play, and so it kind of became our thing. So if I was in there for a really long time, and I remember just bawling, just being like, this can't be it. Like, I can't do this because this is so unfair to him. And in his mind, it was this fun mommy and son game, and he saved those. And I'm thinking, and we talk about it now looking back, and he's like, Mom, he's like, I just wait. He's like, now I'm like super patient. But it's like you say,
he's right. And it was a game to him. And you were probably, even though you were beating yourself up, and I do the same thing. I've been there, so don't worry. I'm like, I have cried over it many nights. But they see it differently. They probably got more of our attention during that time where you're sliding notes than if we were running around at Target or wherever we would go with that. Like,
true.
That was one-on-one time that he got with Mom.
Well, and all the cuddle days too, because I know Misty's the same way. It's like kids just, crawl in bed and you're good to go. You have a movie day.
That's all they need. Like, as long as you have love. I mean, I look back at my childhood. I had a really great childhood, but I don't remember like every activity. Of course, I remember some really fun activities, but what I remember is feeling like I was safe and loved. And my mom was a single mom too, so I remember like she had to go to work, and but I remember days that she made grilled cheeses, and that was like the best, or pancakes for dinner, which she used to feel guilty about, and now she's like, I thought that was the best day.
That's so funny how that works.
I mean, I think we're all just so hard on ourselves all the time. We have to just like take a minute and listen to them.
But I think sorry, go ahead, Julie. No, you're good. I was going to say the beautiful thing I think that your book highlights is that we're raising humans that are going to appreciate people that that have invisible illness. And so, like you say, they're going to be empathetic in a way that I think is hard when you're just hearing about something, because they're thoughtful and they're thinking about things in a way that most people don't have to.
Yeah. And I think it's not that the other parents don't want their kids to be that, but because they don't have to go through the adversity, and they don't have to like, hey, we had the ball, all those pages are real days. So like the bathtub with the ball pit, he missed a birthday party that day. I couldn't go. Like there was no way I could have gone. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And it was a bathroom day. So I was like, I can't go. Like normally if it's like a leg day, I'll use the stroller or whatever, like there's many. But I was like, all right, we're just going to make it fun here. And he remembers that day. And like, I have photos and I showed him, and that he remembers more than going to a birthday party where he would have been on my hip because he was too scared to play with a room full of kids.
I love that. Yeah. That's amazing.
We always joke around about chronic illness being like a wheel of misfortune where you just spin the wheel and it lands on whatever you're dealing with that day. So that makes me think of that. It's unpredictable. And it's hard when you have kids and you don't know what that's going to land on that day and how that can affect your plan. So what I love about the book is that it's not necessarily just specific to those with MS. It's great for all those with any chronic illness. So I love that you did that. You did a great job. And
thank you.
We wanted to ask if you have any upcoming plans on new books in the works, and also if you could tell everyone how we can find your book and learn more about you and the incredible work that you're doing.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, I do. I have too many plans because my mind is constantly going. But we were just approached by a publisher. So
amazing.
We self-published mainly because I wanted to get it in his hands while he was still living it. So it was just a quicker process. And we have a network. I've worked for within the MS community for a long enough time that I felt like it's going to take off without it having the backing of a publisher. But now that we've been approached, I'm super excited about it.
Cool.
And I think, once everything, I don't want to jinx it, but once everything's done, my dream was for it to be a board book. So the quality of the book isn't where I saw it. It was just, it would have cost us like $4 a book. We wouldn't have, we barely made anything on each book. And it wasn't like it was never going to be this big money maker. It was more to like help people. But just to have it the way I envisioned it, and, to see that like a publisher really believes in it is super exciting. And I also wrote book 2 and 3. So book 2 is actually for kids a little bit younger, just to start introducing some words to their vocabulary, because they're smarter than we give them credit for, these kids,
Yeah.
Just certain words, and like have abled and disabled with the same image, because we can all look exactly the same, but some people have disability, and you have to be aware of that. And then I want one kind of projecting my sister also has MS. So she has a 9 and a 7-year-old. So kind of projecting what it's going to be like for Jack in a couple of years, and just based on the natural progression of MS, hopefully I don't get, but I want to support people that end up in a little bit deeper situation.
That's incredible. And exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
So when those come to fruition, then we'll have to have you back on. So we
I
can
know.
talk about
I
those.
can't wait to have them all and be like, oh.
That's so
Absolutely.
awesome.
I'm so excited. Yay.
Thank you. And then they can find us on anywhere. We're sold at Target, Barnes & Noble.
Wow.
Amazon, everywhere. And it's Some Days We ... which I never loved the title, but we'll figure that out. And yeah, so that is available everywhere. But then for more about us, and then the illustrator also has a chronic disease. He has Lyme disease. So we felt it really important to have someone that was also in the same kind of situation.
Love it.
Yeah, we were really happy with him. So we are somedayswe.com, and then our stories are there.
Awesome. And then social media handles, do you have any of those?
Yeah, I am Stamm is mine on Instagram, and then we are Some Days We on Facebook. And
awesome.
Some Days We on Twitter. Yeah.
All of these are going to be linked on our blog post when we share the links to this episode. You can watch it on YouTube or listen to it on wherever you listen to podcasts. But we'll make sure to include all of those links as well.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on, Julie.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for listening, and as always, we ask that you leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening to.
Also, make sure you are following us on Instagram and Facebook for the latest updates, and subscribe to our website where you'll find all the details from today's podcast, as well as other amazing resources. Don't forget to check out our latest issue of the Invisible Diaries magazine.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to share your story or be featured as a Spoonie Spotlight, you can apply on our website, theinvisibleidiaries.com. Bye!